Hey, student success, welcome to week 6. My goodness, this second 8-week session seems to be just floating by very quickly. So just a reminder, student workshop assignment, by the time you are viewing this video, there is just going to be a small handful of offerings left. So please make sure that you are signing up for a workshop, attending, and uploading your certificate. I also wanted to let you know that Week 1 will reopen this coming weekend, so April 30th, May 1st, May 2nd, and that is to accommodate anyone who possibly signed up late for the course, or maybe you just were not quite sure of Blackboard, you were navigating it with some issues. So I always like to reopen that again. So week 1 will reopen just for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of week 6, for you to go back and try to get any work done that you may have missed in week 1. If you recall, week 1 had several assignments, so you have the possibility of getting quite a few points made up in that case. Okay, week 2 and week 3 will also open, but that you will see those reopen in weeks 7 and 8. So I'm going to scroll down to week 6. This is in chapter 6. Lines up nicely, week 6, chapter 6, and you're going to see that it has to do with like memory and studying is the kind of the main focus of this particular week. So you can see you do have several assignments, one of which is a discussion board, and as always when you have discussion boards, your original response is due on Wednesday for attendance points. So make sure you make your original response by Wednesday for your week 6 attendance and respond to other classmates by Sunday. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the materials folder, and you can see that there's a link to your text, and then there's a slide presentation. It's actually rather a PDF, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. It's fairly lengthy, and there's some great information in here. I just sometimes feel it's a little cumbersome because it is so long, but I do still recommend you kind of like going through, and as I've recommended in the past, kind of look to see what do you need assistance on. Maybe you do need help knowing how to prepare for tests, or as you go through, maybe you need to know how to review. They meaning this resource, will talk to you about specific parts of the testing process. I think that this part here, using test strategies, where it really starts to go over the different types of strategies, is really the most helpful in my personal opinion, only because I think it's really important for you to first know what structure your test is going to be set up in. So it doesn't matter if you're taking a psychology test, an anatomy and physiology test, whatever the case is. It's really helpful to know, is this a multiple choice? Is this essay? Is this matching? Because you should approach those testing formats differently based on the questions. And so that's the first thing. And then this is going to give you tips on like, how do I go about preparing for an essay test? And so this does go through, here are the different ways to approach that. And then it even goes into like specific subject areas. And then you'll see it talks about rules for tests and test etiquette and what to do after you're done taking the test. Hopefully you just don't put it away and never look at it again. Even if you do well on a test, hopefully you look and see, okay, why did I do well? What did I do that allowed me to do such a good job so I can continue doing this? And if you didn't do as well, what do you need to change moving forward? So reviewing after the test is just as important. And so this will also go into like critical thinking, because you do need to make sure that you are thinking critically, not only on tests, but in life. And so it's going to give little exercises. So I do encourage you to look at that. But in the actual chapter, you can also go through, I think it's a little easier to navigate here. So you can see test anxiety. A lot of people do have test anxiety. Our brain goes into this like fight or flight mode because we view sometimes tests as the enemy. And so first thing, if we can start viewing tests differently, like this is an opportunity to learn, to show what I know. It's an opportunity to look at my own growth. And so we start viewing the test a little differently. It can help our test anxiety, but this is also, there's going to contain some information. The biggest thing you can also do for yourself for test anxiety, and this goes for like presentation anxiety as well, be prepared. I mean, the more preparation, obviously the better you're going to feel about your testing situation or your speaking situation. So you need to just prepare. And again, knowing the format of the test, knowing when it's going to be given, all of that is going to help. So this is going to go through and give you some test anxiety suggestions. Some of it you probably are very familiar with, sleep well, eat, that kind of thing. You also maybe need to think about what study strategies you're using. Are you using something that's ineffective? I had a student one semester who kept repeatedly getting C's on their vocabulary quizzes. So not awful, but they clearly wanted to do better because it was a class you had to have a B in to pass. And so I talked to them about what they were doing to study, and they said flashcards. I've just always used flashcards. And so we came up with some different strategies, and they started using different strategies, and their grades started to improve because they were starting to view the information in a different way, and they were starting to incorporate the vocabulary into their general vocabulary knowledge. And so just because you've done something in the past doesn't mean that's how you always have to do it, especially if it's not been effective. And so this is going to talk to you about, first of all, you should be studying a little bit every day so you're not cramming at the end. How do you study before the exam? And then just some general tips. Make a study schedule. Make sure that you are in the right physical and mental space. You're not distracted. Learning with other people, I know during COVID is kind of tricky sometimes, but you could always set up a Zoom or a Collaborate session. But learning with others is often very effective because they may see things from a different perspective than you do and make them think of it in a different way. So this is suggestions on working with a group in order to study. So taking tests is the next section. This goes over kind of like what I talked about here, the different types of tests, not only multiple choice, true, false, but also take home, open book, online tests, because there's advantages and disadvantages for all of those things. And here are some general test taking tips. There we go, a little tongue twister there. Test taking tips. So here are some general ones. Keep an eye on the time. Do the easy questions first. Only change your answer if you know why you're changing it. So there are so many times where students are like, oh, if I would have just gone with my gut, I would have got it right. You're right. Most often we change a right answer to a wrong answer. So only change your answer if you have a really good reason for changing it. And this goes into, again, some subject area tests. Here's the next section going over in more in depth the different types of modalities of testing, matching, true, false, short answer. So it's going to give you some suggestions on each of those. And then academic integrity. So you want to make sure that you're looking at, being academically honest. If you are not academically honest with yourself, you're really cheating yourself honestly out of your money and your time. And it also is stressful, and you are putting yourself at risk for a lot of serious consequences. So there are disadvantages to being academically dishonest. And we are going to talk about what academic dishonesty looks like, but here are some basic examples. Cheating, using things that you're not allowed to use. So another person's work, a cheat sheet. Some of this is kind of pretty clear cut. Plagiarism is when some plagiarism is very obvious, where you just copy and paste from the internet, or you print something off and use it that it's not yours. Others is unintentional. Maybe you just forgot to cite, or you didn't cite properly, or you used your own paper from a semester before, which is also plagiarizing. Fabrication, falsifying information, presenting it that's not supposed to be there. Obtaining an unfair advantage when, if your friend has the same teacher, same class, but on a different day, and you say, hey, can you tell me what was on the test? Technically, that's being academically dishonest. You're trying to get an unfair advantage. So you can also assist someone in being academically dishonest by allowing them to cheat off you. Falsifying records, that's a pretty extreme example. And then unauthorized access. So there are different ways to be academically dishonest. And then, as I mentioned before, using the test results. Don't just stop once you get your test back. There are things you should do to make sure that you are correcting mistakes and moving forward or staying just as successful as you had. As I mentioned a little bit ago, also just find the test studying strategy that works best for you. Testing with a group, making practice tests, flashcards, using websites like Quizlet, find what works for you, or play around and find really what is the most effective. So that's the material for week 6 over our concept of, test taking. So in your assignments, as I said, you have multiple assignments this week. So we'll talk about the discussion forum as always, due Wednesday for your attendance points, respond to classmates by Sunday. You are just answering these 2 questions in about 3 to 5 complete sentences. So you can put them together if you want in like a paragraph format, or you can answer them separately if you choose to. So you're answering 2 questions. What forms of academic dishonesty are most prevalent on your campus? So if you're not sure what they mean by that, again, there was a whole section here in your textbook and it went over, here's different ways of being academically dishonest right here. So if you're not sure, you can reference that. So what are forms of academic dishonesty are most prevalent on your campus? And if you've not been on our campus because it's COVID and you've only been online, you can talk about maybe your high school experience or previous experience when you've been on campus, or what you assume might be academic dishonest behaviors online. And then what can you do to avoid them in your own academic career? So make sure you address both parts. I think that, plagiarism or cheating or falsification is most prevalent. I can avoid them by managing my time, being honest with myself, having integrity, putting in effort, whatever the case is. So make sure you answer both of those questions by Wednesday for week 6 attendance points. So now you have your chapter 6 assignment, and there are 3 parts to this assignment. So make sure you are doing all 3 parts. It says first for this assignment, read the attached article right here, fake news article. It's going to open up. It's 3 pages, really not that long because the first page is mostly just a picture. And then you have your article right here, the little bit there. So it's really terribly not long at all. So that's first step though. Read this article, step 1. Step 2, choose one of the following verbs included here and write a short essay question about this article. So choose one or more if you wanted to do like compare and contrast or explain and defend. That's okay. But you're going to choose one of these verbs and write an essay question. If you were the teacher and you had to come up with an essay test based on this article, using one of these verbs, write that question. Then answer your own question using 3 to 5 sentences. So make sure you answer your own question using 3 to 5 sentences. So that's why it's 3 parts. Read the article, choose one of the verbs, answer the question that you posed in part 2. Okay? And you can just, honestly, you could just write submission if you wanted to do that and type all of that in right there. Okay? That's your second assignment. Your next assignment, actually, it looks like 2, but it's 1. You're going to first take this little exercise, test your memory. It's going to open up and it's going to literally test your memory. You're going to have to look at a list of words and see how many you remember. So take this first, then using your results, answer these 3 questions. How many words were you able to remember? Which words did you forget? What memory technique or techniques did you use to help you remember? So do this first and then click in here and under write submission, answer those 3 questions based on that quick little exercise. And then the very last one is another automatically graded assignment. It's an assessment. How well do you study? So when you click it, it'll open up into one of those talking, moving.
Good study skills are essential for.
So you'll go ahead and make sure you run it through all the way to the end. Make sure you answer all the questions, and then it should transfer your grade automatically over into Blackboard. All right, so as a recap, week 6, chapter 6, make sure you look over the chapter 6 materials, the PDF, the link to the textbook. You are going to complete the test your memory assignment, which is the take the survey and then answer the 3 questions. The chapter 6 assignment, which is 3 parts. You're reading the article, coming up with an essay question, and answering the essay question. Responding to the chapter 6 discussion on academic honesty, and then taking the how well do you study assessment. So please make sure you complete all of those, your posts by Wednesday and then everything else by Sunday. Week 1 will reopen this weekend, and also make sure you're doing the student workshop assignment. All right, hope everyone has a great week. Bye.